Right now, somewhere out in the dark ocean, a blue whale longer than a passenger plane is gliding through black water in complete silence. And if you could follow her family line backwards, step by step, ancestor by ancestor, it would not end in the sea, it would end on land. With a nervous, dog-sized animal standing at the muddy edge of an ancient river, feeling warm water around its ankles and having no idea that one day its children would become oceans. That is tonight's journey. Not just facts about whales, but the secret slow-motion story of how a land animal quietly turned into a giant of the sea. Without a plan, without a moment of decision, one tiny change at a time. You're watching Deep Earth Stories. If you like drifting off to long, quiet journeys like this, you can follow this channel so new stories find you on future nights too, even with your eyes closed. And if, by the end of this video, you can almost picture those first whales walking on land, tell me in the comments what you saw in your mind. I read them when I write the next story. For now, you don't have to type, you don't have to move, you don't even have to stay awake. Just settle in. Let your shoulders grow heavy. Let your face soften. Tonight, we're going back around 50 million years to the warm shores of a vanished sea to stand beside that small four-legged ancestor on the day the water first began to call it in. It is a true story, or at least as true as the deep past can be. It is a story about creatures that once walked on land, then slowly, over millions and millions of years, slipped into the sea. It is the story of the whales. Not as they are now, floating like great, gentle mountains beneath the ocean, but as they were before, when they had legs, when they walked. If that sounds strange to you, good. Let that strangeness be soft and curious, not sharp, because the world is full of slow, quiet strangeness, and most of it is beautiful. Tonight, we are going to travel back through time. Very far back. Farther than history. Farther than ancient cities or pyramids or kings. We are going back to a world that was warm and wet, and very different from the one you know. We are going back 50 million years, give or take a few million, to a time when the ancestors of the whale were small, deer-like animals standing at the edge of shallow rivers. They did not know they were going to become something enormous. They did not plan it. It simply happened slowly, over millions of years, the way all great things happen slowly. This is a story about change. It is a story about water, and what it does to things over time. It is a story about how life is always moving, always shifting, always finding its way into new shapes, new places, new depths. And it is a story that I hope will carry you gently into sleep. So let your shoulders drop, let your jaw relax, let your breathing come easy and slow, and come with me. We are going back a long, long way tonight. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 1. Before the ocean took them, imagine the world 55 million years ago. Not the world as a cold, distant fact, but as a place. A real place with air and heat, and the sound of insects and the smell of wet soil after rain. It is warm, warmer than today, almost everywhere. There are no polar ice caps yet, or very little ice. The oceans are shallow and warm and full of strange life. Forests grow thick and close across land that would one day become continents we recognize. But the shapes of those continents are different now. Things are still moving. The ground beneath us, even now, is always slowly moving, though we will never feel it in a single lifetime. India is drifting north, slowly pressing up against Asia. The Himalayas have not been born yet. They are a distant future, a slow collision still unfolding in geological time. Africa and Europe are separated by a wide, warm sea called the Tethys Sea. Say that name quietly to yourself. Tethys, It sounds old, doesn't it? It sounds like something half forgotten. This Tethys Sea was not like any ocean we know today. It was wide and warm and shallow in many places. Its edges were lined with mud flats and mangroves and shallow coastal waters. Fish which moved through it. Ancient sea creatures drifted in its currents, and along its shores, in the thick wet forests and muddy riverbeds, lived many small mammals. These mammals had survived the great extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs, about 10 million years before this moment. They were small and cautious, and they had learned to find food wherever it could be found. Some of them climbed trees, some of them ate insects, some of them were beginning to change in ways that would, over millions of years, lead to every hoofed animal alive today. Horses, deer, pigs, hippos, and yes, the ancestors of the whale. One group of these animals is especially interesting to us tonight. Scientists call them the pakistids. That is a long word, so let's just call them the early ones for now. The early ones. They were small, about the size of a large dog or a small deer. They had 4 legs, a long snout, and hooves, real hooves, like a deer. They walked on land, they ran on land, they chased small prey through shallow riverbeds and dense undergrowth. But something about the water was calling them. Not in a dramatic way, not all at once, just slowly. The way a story always begins slowly. They were good at wading, they were comfortable in water. Perhaps the water offered safety from predators on land. Perhaps it offered easier food, fish that did not run as fast as the creatures in the forest. Perhaps the cool, slow river water simply felt good on a hot, humid day. We cannot know exactly why, but we can see the evidence, written in their bones, that they spent more and more time near the water, and eventually in it. Picture one of them now, small, curious, standing knee-deep in a warm, brown river. The water moves slow and quiet around its legs. The sun is hot overhead, but under the shadow of the trees it is dim and cool. The creature dips its long snout into the water. Its eyes, positioned near the top of its skull, in a way that helped it watch for danger, even while mostly submerged, scan the surface. It is not a whale yet, not even close. But it carries something inside it, in the double helix of its living cells, a kind of distant direction. A slow drift toward the sea. Let that image rest softly in your mind. A small, warm creature standing in a river 50 million years ago. The water around its legs. The quiet sound of current over stone, and the sea somewhere far away, waiting. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 2, The Language of Bones. Now, here is something wonderful. We know all of this because of bones. Not photographs, not written records, not stories passed down from person to person, just bones, pressed into rock, over millions of years until they became stone themselves. This process is called fossilization. Maybe you already know this word, but let me tell you it slowly. Because there is something deeply calming about the way fossils are made. When an animal dies near water, sometimes its body sinks into soft mud or sand at the bottom of a river or a lake or a shallow sea. The soft parts, the skin, the organs, the fur, these slowly disappear. Bacteria and time take care of those. But the hard parts, the bones and teeth, sometimes stay. They settle into the mud. And then, very slowly, over thousands and then millions of years, minerals from the surrounding rock seep into the bones. Molecule by molecule, the bone is replaced by stone. The shape stays. The structure stays. Even tiny details stay. But the material becomes rock, and then the rock shifts. Mountains rise. Rivers change course. The ground that was once a riverbed becomes a desert. and somewhere on the surface, exposed by wind or rain, or a geologist with a small hammer and a great deal of patience, a piece of that old bone appears. Someone picks it up, they brush it clean, they carry it back to a laboratory, and they study it for months, sometimes years, and slowly, very slowly, the bone tells its story. This is how we know about Pakicetus. This is how we know about all the early ancestors of the whale. A scientist named Philip Gingerich found the first Pakicetus skull in Pakistan in 1983. Pakistan is in South Asia, and millions of years ago, parts of what is now Pakistan were on the shores of that warm Tethys Sea. The skull was in rock in a mountainous region, far from any ocean. But the shape of the skull, particularly the shape of the inner ear, matched the ear bones of whales. Think about that for a moment. A small dog-sized creature, walking on 4 legs through a forest 50 million years ago, in what is now a dry and rocky mountain range, had ears that were the beginning of something. Ears that would, over millions of years and hundreds of generations, become the extraordinarily sensitive hearing organs inside a blue whale, capable of detecting sounds from thousands of miles away beneath the sea, the ear of all things. That is where the story began to be told. Scientists call this kind of evidence a homologous structure. It means that a feature in one animal and a feature in another animal, even if they look very different now, came from the same original structure in a shared ancestor. Whale ears and Pakicetus ears share that deep similarity. They are speaking the same old language, even if millions of years of change have made them sound very different. If your eyes feel heavy, that is okay. Let them close. Keep listening. The bones keep speaking. The stones keep singing their slow old songs. And we drift together, gently, through deep time. Chapter 3. The slow pull of water. Now let's drift a little further along the river of time. After the Pakicetids, several million years pass. In those years, the descendants of the early ones are changing. Not because any single animal decided to change, not because they tried, but because in every generation some small differences appear, and some of those differences happen to be very helpful for a life spent near the water. An animal that can hold its breath a little longer catches more fish. It survives. It has young. Some of those young inherit the ability to hold their breath a little longer. This happens again and again, across hundreds of thousands of generations, each step tiny, almost invisible. But over millions of years, tiny steps become enormous distances. This is evolution. You may have heard this word many times. But tonight, let it be not a textbook concept, but something you can feel. Something slow and quiet and inevitable, like water shaping stone over centuries. No hurry, no drama, just the slow, gentle insistence of life finding its way. About 48 million years ago, a creature called Ambulocetus appeared. Its name means the walking whale, and it is one of the most remarkable things that has ever lived on this earth. Ambulocetus was larger than Pakicetus. About the size of a large male sea lion, it still had 4 legs. It could still walk on land, though not gracefully. But it was also remarkably at home in the water. Its feet were large and flat, almost like paddles. Its body was long and flexible. Its tail was muscular and thick. Scientists believe that Ambulocetus moved through water the way otters and modern whales move. Not by paddling its legs side to side, like a fish, but by moving its spine up and down, in that beautiful, undulating motion you can see in dolphins and whales today. Watch a dolphin swim sometime, if you ever have the chance. That wave-like movement through its body, that graceful rise and fall, That motion was already beginning in Ambulocetus 50 million years ago. Picture it now. You are standing or floating beside a warm, shallow estuary. The air is heavy and hot. The water is dark green and still near the edges, where the mangrove roots tangle and twist. Something large moves beneath the surface, a long, smooth shape, and then it rises, its broad snout breaking the water, its small eyes blinking in the light. It is not a whale, but it is becoming one. It takes a slow breath, and then it slips back under, and the water closes over it like a soft curtain, and it is gone. Let that image sink into the quiet of your mind. Let it settle there like silt settling at the bottom of a river, slow and soft and sure. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 4. The Warm, Shallow Sea. Now we move a little further in time, let's say 45 million years ago. The Tethys Sea is still there, warm and wide, though it is slowly shrinking as the land masses around it continue their patient drift. The world is still warm, the forests are still thick, and along the coastlines and in the shallow seas, the descendants of those early walking creatures are becoming, slowly and surely, creatures of the water. One of these is Rodhocetus. Rodhocetus is a beautiful word. Say it quietly to yourself. Rodhocetus. It sounds like something from a dream or a poem. It was discovered in Pakistan as well in 1994 by the same scientist, Philip Gingerich, who had found Pakicetus more than a decade before. He had spent years searching through those rocks, and the rocks had given him gift after gift. Rodhocetus was even more adapted to the water than Ambulocetus. Its hind legs were smaller, less useful for walking. Its front limbs were beginning to look more like flippers than arms. Its nostrils had begun to move back along its skull, no longer at the very tip of the snout, but shifting slowly, ever so slowly, toward the top of the head. Do you see what is happening? The body is rewriting itself. Over millions of years, it is making itself perfect for a life in the water. The nostrils moving to the top of the head is especially important. If you are a creature that spends most of its time underwater, it is far easier to breathe if your nose is on the very top of your head. So you only need to rise a few inches above the surface for a single breath. That migration of the nose, from the tip of the snout in a land blowhole at the very top of the skull in a modern whale, is one of the most extraordinary journeys in all of biology. And it happened so slowly that no single animal ever noticed it. There was no animal who woke up one morning and thought, "My nose seems a little further back today." It simply moved over thousands of generations, responding to the gentle pressure of survival. The animals whose nostrils were slightly further back were slightly better at breathing quickly while swimming. They caught more food. They lived a little longer. Their young inherited the change, and on, so slowly, so quietly, while the world turned and the seasons came and the seas rose and fell. Isn't that something? We are lying here tonight, breathing quietly, and somewhere in the deep past, there was a creature that breathed a little differently, so that millions of years later, a great blue whale could rise from the deepest ocean, exhale a cloud of warm mist 30 feet into the air, and then sink again into the dark. Every change, no matter how small, carries something forward. If your breathing feels slow and soft right now, let it stay that way. There is nothing you need to rush toward. The night is long and gentle, and we still have much of this story to drift through together. Let's move a little further now, slowly. No hurry. Chapter 5. The Disappearing Legs. We are now about 40 million years ago. The world has changed a little more. The Tethys Sea is narrowing. The continents are still on the move. India has pressed closer to Asia, and in a few million years, the collision will begin to push up the Himalayas, those great silent giants of stone and ice. But that is still in the future. In the water, the transformation continues. By this time, a group of animals called the basilosaurids have appeared. And these are remarkable. These are, in some ways, the first animals we might look at and say, yes, those are whales, or at least they are very nearly whales. Basilosaurus was enormous. Its name means king lizard, because when the first fossils were found in the 1800s, people thought they had discovered a sea serpent, some ancient, enormous reptile. But it was not a reptile at all. It was a mammal. A warm-blooded, air-breathing, live-birth-giving mammal. Just a very, very large one. Basilosaurus could reach lengths of up to 60 feet. 60 feet. That is roughly the length of 6 small cars placed end to end. It had a long, serpentine body, not the compact, torpedo shape of a modern whale, but something more like an enormous eel. Flexible, powerful. Terrifying, perhaps, if you were a fish in those warm prehistoric seas. But here is the part that I love most. Basilosaurus still had hind legs. They were small, tiny, really, compared to its enormous body. Functional for almost nothing in terms of swimming or walking. Some scientists believe they may have been used during mating. Some believe they were simply there, carried forward from the past. No longer needed, but not yet gone. The way some things linger in our lives long after we no longer need them. Think about that. Inside the body of this 60-foot sea creature, there were still little legs. Vestigial, that is the scientific word. It means something that was once useful, and still remains, though its purpose has faded. It is a whisper from the past, tucked away inside the body, saying, once we walked. Once we stood in the sunlight on dry land and felt the ground beneath our feet. Even today, if you look at the skeleton of a modern whale, you can sometimes find small, disconnected bones buried deep in the flesh near the tail. They are not attached to anything. They are not connected to the rest of the skeleton in any useful way. They are just there, quiet, hidden, remnants of the legs that once carried the ancestors of the whale across wet ground and into shallow streams. We carry our past in our bodies. All of us do. The whale carries it in those tiny tucked away bones, and we carry ours in our own ways. In the places where our instincts come from, in the things our hands still remember how to do, in the ways we reach for warmth and safety without thinking. Let your body rest now. Let it carry everything it carries, without effort, the way it always does. The past is inside you, quiet and deep, and it does not need your attention tonight. Just rest. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. A sleep reset just for you. If your eyes are already closed, good. Stay there. You are doing everything right. Maybe you caught only some of that last part. Maybe you were already drifting when I talked about Basilosaurus and its hidden little legs. That is perfectly fine. You do not need to remember everything. You do not need to understand every detail. This story will carry you forward, whether your mind is fully here or only half listening from somewhere soft and dim. Yawn if you need to. Stretch slowly if that feels good. Let your body settle a little deeper into wherever it is resting. Pose. The night is quiet. The story will continue. And if you fall asleep before the end, that is the best thing that could happen. That means this is working. That means you found the rest you came looking for. I will keep talking softly. just in case a part of you is still listening. Chapter 6, Into the Deep. Now let's float forward in time once more. Not millions of years this time. Let's pause for a moment and think about what the sea means. The ocean is not simply a large amount of water. It is a world. A full, complete, layered world with its own geography, its own weather, its own seasons and cycles. The top layer, where sunlight reaches, is called the photic zone. It is bright and warm and full of life. Algae and tiny plants grow there, feeding enormous chains of creatures above and below them. Below the photic zone, the light fades. The water becomes cooler, the pressure begins to rise, and the creatures that live there have found ways to survive in the cold and the dark that are as strange and beautiful as anything on land. For the early whale ancestors, entering the ocean was a long, slow transition. They began in rivers and estuaries, those places where rivers meet the sea, where the water is brackish, a mix of fresh and salt. Gradually they moved into the shallow coastal seas, and over millions of years, some of their descendants moved further out, into the open water, and then deeper still. The modern ocean is between 2,300 miles across at its narrowest, and many times wider at its broadest. The deepest point on Earth, the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, goes down nearly 7 miles below the surface. 7 miles of water above you, pressing down with a weight we can barely imagine. And yet, sperm whales dive to extraordinary depths, over 1.5 miles down, in search of giant squid in the blackness. No land animal, not even the most adventurous, had ever gone so deep. But the whales went there, slowly, over millions of years of perfect patient change. How did they do it? How does a body that once stood on dry ground become capable of diving 1.5 miles into the dark ocean? The answer is, one small step at a time. Over millions of years, whales developed the ability to collapse their lungs under pressure without being crushed. Their blood became better and better at storing oxygen, carrying it through long dives without needing a breath. Their heart rate slows dramatically when they dive, a reflex called the diving response. Even humans have a weak version of this reflex. When you hold your breath and put your face in cold water, your heart rate slows a little. It is an ancient inheritance, a distant memory of a time when our ancestors, too, were closer to the water. Everything is connected in these small, quiet ways. The whale that dives into darkness carries something from the land. And we, breathing slowly in our beds tonight, carry something from the sea. Doesn't that make you feel something soft and vast? We are not separate from the story, we are inside it. Picture the deep ocean tonight, not as something frightening, but as something immense and quiet. Imagine floating in warm, dark water far below the surface, where no light reaches and no sound carries from the world above. The pressure is enormous, but you do not feel it. You are perfectly adapted, perfectly made for this place. You are home. There is a kind of peace in that image. If you let it be peaceful, the deepest quiet in the world is not silence on land. It is the deep ocean, where the pressure keeps everything still, and the darkness is complete and ancient. Let that quiet come around you now. Wherever you are, let the room be that deep and gentle. Let the sounds around you be like distant ocean currents there, but not demanding anything. Just rest. We will drift a little further together. Chapter 7. The shape of the whale. Now I want to tell you about something called convergent evolution. This is a beautiful idea. Convergent evolution means that sometimes, when two very different creatures are faced with the same challenge, they develop the same solution, even though they never met. even though they share no recent common ancestor, even though they evolved on opposite sides of the world. The challenge of moving fast through water, for example, has been solved in almost exactly the same way by dolphins, sharks, and ichthyosaurs, those ancient marine reptiles of the Mesozoic era. All three evolved a sleek torpedo-shaped body. All three evolved a dorsal fin for stability. All three evolved a tail fin for propulsion. Sharks are fish, dolphins are mammals, ichthyosaurs were reptiles. They are not closely related. But water is water, and the physics of moving through water are the same, no matter what kind of creature you are. The best shape for cutting through water is a streamlined torpedo shape. So, all three, in their own time, in their own way, arrived at the same answer. The universe seems to have a few favourite solutions. The whale's body is almost a perfect design for ocean life. Its front limbs became flippers, used for steering and balance. Its hind limbs disappeared almost entirely, those tiny vestigial bones the only remnant. Its tail became a wide, horizontal fluke, pushed up and down by the powerful muscles along the spine, driving the whale forward with each great sweep. Horizontal is important here. Fishtails move side to side. Whale tails move up and down. That difference tells the whole story, because whale tails move in the same plane as the spine, the same motion that Ambulosatus used to undulate through shallow water 48 million years ago. That motion was inherited from land animals, whose spines flex up and down when they run, not side to side. And over millions of years, that up and down motion became the engine of the whale. Think about a dog running, or a cat. Watch the way the spine arches and flexes up and down, driving the back legs in a powerful gallop. That same motion taken into the water became the whale's tail. The legs disappeared, but the motion remained, and in the tail of a blue whale, you can still see the ghost of a land animal's galloping run. Everything carries the memory of what it used to be. Let that thought be gentle and slow in your mind. Like a wave that moves through deep water, without hurrying, carrying its energy across thousands of miles. If you are drifting toward sleep now, follow the drift. Let it take you. The story will be here if you want to return to it. And if you are still with me, quietly listening in the dark, then let's go just a little further before we close this first part of our journey. Chapter 8. The first whales. About 35 million years ago, the Archaeocetes, that ancient group of early transitional whales that includes Pakicetus and Ambulosatus and Basilosaurus and all their cousins, began to give way to something new. Two great lineages emerged. Two great families that would eventually become the whales we know today. The first are the toothed whales, Odontocetes, dolphins, porpoises, sperm whales. These animals developed something remarkable: echolocation. The ability to produce clicks and pulses of sound and then listen to the echoes as they bounce back from objects in the water. A kind of living sonar, so precise that a dolphin can detect a coin-sized object from 30 feet away in total darkness. The second are the filter feeders, the baleen whales, mysticetes, humpbacks, blue whales, right whales. These animals lost their teeth entirely and developed baleen, those long comb-like plates of a material similar to fingernails hanging from the upper jaw. A blue whale swims open-mouthed through a cloud of tiny shrimp called krill, takes in thousands of gallons of water, and then pushes it back out through the baleen, which sieves the krill from the water like a giant strainer. A blue whale can eat 4 tons of krill in a single day. 4 tons in a single day. The blue whale is the largest animal that has ever lived on this planet, larger than any dinosaur. Its heart alone weighs about 400 pounds and is roughly the size of a small car. Its arteries are wide enough for a human child to crawl through. When it exhales, the spray from its blowhole can reach 30 feet in the air. And this creature, this incomprehensible, magnificent, gentle giant, descended from a small, deer-like animal that stood knee-deep in a warm river 50 million years ago. I find that almost impossible to hold in my mind all at once. But in the quiet dark, at the edge of sleep, it somehow feels easier. The whole span of it feels softer. The 50 million years compresses into something dreamlike, a long, slow song, and all the creatures in between are notes in that song, each one carrying the melody forward into the next. We are going to follow the whales into the deep ocean. We are going to learn about the songs they sing, the journeys they take, the extraordinary ways they sense the world around them. We are going to spend time in the quiet blue dark, where these creatures live their enormous, unhurried lives. And as we do, I hope the quiet of those deep waters finds its way into your room, into your breathing, into the soft edges of your thoughts. Because the deep ocean, more than almost anywhere else on Earth, knows how to be still. Let's drift together now. Slowly, there is no rush. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 10. A world without light. Imagine you are deep beneath the surface of the ocean. Not at the edge, not in the shallows where you can still see the sandy bottom and the sunlight rippling above you. You are in the open water now, far from any shore, and you are going down. At first, the water around you is blue, bright, clear, brilliant blue, the colour of a dream of summer. Sunlight filters down from above in long, slow beams, shifting and swaying with the movement of the surface. Small fish dart through those beams like sparks. Jellyfish drift past, trailing their long, translucent curtains. You go deeper. The blue deepens. It becomes darker. The beams of sunlight grow thinner, more distant. At about 600 feet below the surface, you cross into what oceanographers call the mesopelagic zone, the twilight zone. Here, the light is barely a memory, a faint blue-grey dimness like the sky just before the sun fully disappears on a winter evening. You go deeper still. At 3,000 feet, there is no light at all. None. Not a flicker, not a glow from above. This is the midnight zone, the bathypelagic zone, and it is exactly what it sounds like. Permanent, complete, ancient darkness. The darkness that has existed here since the ocean first formed, billions of years ago. The pressure here is immense. At 3,000 feet, the pressure is about 90 times what you feel on the surface. It would crush a human body completely. And yet, life is everywhere. Strange, glowing creatures move through the dark. Anglerfish carry their own tiny lanterns in front of their mouths. Squid flash patterns of light across their bodies in communication we do not fully understand. Shrimp, worms, fish with enormous eyes built for finding the faintest trace of light. A whole world alive and ancient and completely hidden from the world above. And the sperm whale goes here. A sperm whale can dive to at least 7,000 feet. Some researchers believe they may go deeper. They hold their breath for up to 90 minutes. They plunge into that darkness with no light, no sight, navigating entirely by sound. Their huge, oil-filled head acting as an enormous acoustic instrument, sending out the loudest sounds made by any animal on Earth. Clicks so powerful they can stun or even kill the giant squid they hunt. The sperm whale goes into the dark and it is not afraid, because it has everything it needs. Its body is built for this. Its mind is tuned to this. The darkness is not empty to the whale. It is full of sound, full of information, full of the echoes of its own voice bouncing back from creatures and rocks and the distant seafloor. The darkness is home. Let that be a soft thought for a moment. That darkness is not always empty. That sometimes what seems like nothing is actually full of things we simply cannot see yet, full of sounds and shapes and life that we have not learned to listen for. The whale listens in the dark, and it knows exactly where it is. If your room is dark around you now, let it be gentle. Let it be full of quiet. Let it be the kind of dark that holds you, rather than the kind that troubles you. You are safe here. The night is soft. For a moment, just breathe. Chapter 11. The voice of the deep. Now let's talk about whale song, because this, perhaps more than anything else about these creatures, is the thing that makes the heart feel something that is hard to name. Something like wonder, mixed with sadness, mixed with a deep and quiet awe. Humpback whales sing, not in the way we speak or hum, not simple sounds. They produce long, complex sequences of sounds, moans, and creaks and high whistles, and deep resonant bellows that are organized into repeating phrases. And those phrases are organized into themes, and those themes repeat and develop over the course of an entire song that can last for 20 or 30 minutes, and then begin again. Only the males sing, at least in humpbacks. And they sing, it is believed, mostly during the breeding season. Perhaps to attract females, perhaps to compete with other males, but the songs are not simple calls. They are extraordinary compositions. They change over time. A song that a humpback sings this year will be slightly different from the song he sang last year, and all the males in a population tend to sing the same song. They learn from each other. The song spreads. The song spreads through the population like a piece of music spreading through a community. Everyone adding their voice, everyone learning the new variation. Researchers in the 1970s discovered that humpback songs could travel enormous distances through the ocean. Sound travels much faster in water than in air, and the ocean is full of sound channels, layers where temperature and pressure combine in just the right way to carry sound for extraordinary distances. Low-frequency whale calls can travel thousands of miles. A whale singing in the waters near Hawaii might be heard by a whale near Alaska. Think about that for a moment. A voice carrying across the open ocean, thousands of miles, through cold, dark water, arriving faint but real at the ears of another creature on the other side of the sea. Is that not something? In 1970, a biologist named Roger Payne released a recording of humpback whale songs to the public. It was one of the first times most people had ever heard these sounds. The album was called Songs of the Humpback Whale, and it became one of the most widely distributed nature recordings in history. People around the world listened to it, and many of them wept, without entirely knowing why. Something in those sounds reached past language, past culture, past every learned thing, and touched something older and quieter inside them. Maybe it touched the part of us that is still, somewhere very deep, connected to the ocean. The salt in our blood is not so different from the salt in the sea. The rhythms of our heartbeats, our breath, our sleep and waking, all of these have their roots in the rhythms of the natural world, and when we hear a whale singing in the dark water, something in us recognizes something. We are not entirely separate from this story. We are always a part of it. If you are drifting now, let the sound of whale song carry you. You may have heard it before, those long, mournful, beautiful tones. If you can imagine it now, let it play softly at the edges of your mind. Low and resonant and slow, like music that was old before humans existed. Let it carry you down into the deep quiet. You do not need to stay fully awake for this. Let the story hold you. Chapter 12. The Great Migrations Now, another sleep reset. Just for you. Notice your breathing right now. Is it slow? Is it deep? If it has gone shallow without you noticing, take one gentle, deliberate breath in, fill your lungs slowly, and then let it out without rushing. There. That is enough. Maybe you have been lying in the same position for a while. If you'd like to shift slightly, to find a slightly softer spot, do that now. Slowly. No sudden movements. Just a gentle adjustment, like a boat turning slowly in calm water. The night is long. This story is slow. There is nowhere to be but here, now. Let's talk about migration. Every year, humpback whales make one of the longest migrations of any animal on Earth. They spend the summer, months, in cold, food-rich waters near the poles, fattening themselves on vast clouds of krill and small fish. And then, when winter comes, they travel to warm, tropical waters to breed and give birth. The humpbacks that feed near Antarctica, for example, swim north to the warm waters, around places like Tonga and Hawaii, to have their calves. That journey can cover more than 10,000 miles each way, 20,000 miles in a year, and they navigate this journey across an open ocean, with no roads, no landmarks, no maps, guided by the Earth's magnetic field, by the position of the sun, by the temperature and chemistry of the water, and, perhaps, by memory. They have been making this journey, or versions of it, for millions of years. Before humans built their first shelters, whales were crossing the oceans. Before the first cities rose beside their rivers, whales were singing in the dark water. Before the pyramids, before the written word, before any human art or language or law, the great whales were moving through the sea, slowly, steadily, unhurried and immense, following the same invisible paths across the ocean that they follow today. There is something deeply calming about that continuity, about the idea that something has been happening for millions of years, quietly, far from our attention, not for our benefit or our knowledge, just because it is what it does. The world does not need us to witness it to be real. It goes on, beautifully and completely, in our absence. The whales sing whether anyone is listening or not. The ocean moves whether any shore receives it or not. The deep time turns whether any mind is present to measure it or not. And somehow, that is not a sad thought. Somehow, tonight, it feels reassuring. The world is larger than any one mind can hold, and it is still fine. It is still turning, still singing, still sending its great creatures across thousands of miles of dark water, year after year, in patterns old beyond memory. You are inside something enormous and patient and continuous. And right now, you do not need to understand it. You just need to rest inside it. Let your body be heavy. Let your thoughts be soft. Let the story continue around you, like water around a quiet stone. Chapter 13. The Intelligence of Whales. For a long time, humans believed that intelligence was something we alone possessed, or at least something we possessed more completely than any other creature. We measured intelligence by our own standards, by the ability to use language, to solve puzzles, to use tools, to recognize oneself in a mirror. And then we began to look more carefully at the other minds around us, and we found that intelligence, like the bodies of animals, comes in many shapes. Whales have very large brains, not just large in absolute terms, which is expected, given their enormous bodies, but large relative to their body size, and structured in ways that suggest complex social processing. The cerebral cortex of a whale, the outer layer of the brain associated with thinking and feeling and processing the world, has a surface area much larger than a human's, and it has an unusual abundance of certain kinds of neurons, cells called spindle neurons, that in humans are thought to be involved in social awareness, empathy, and the experience of emotion. This does not mean whales experience the world exactly as we do. Their minds are shaped by a completely different environment and a completely different way of life. But it does suggest that the inner life of a whale may be richer and more complex than we once assumed. We know that whales live in complex social groups. Sperm whale families are led by females and stay together for life. The young stay with their mothers for years, longer than most animals. Calves are raised not just by their mothers but by other females in the group, a behaviour called allomothering, and it is associated in many species with high intelligence and strong social bonds. We know that dolphins, the smaller toothed whales, used tools. Some bottlenose dolphins carry sea sponges on their beaks to protect them while foraging on the seafloor. This behaviour is passed from mother to daughter, a form of cultural learning. Culture, not just behaviour but learned, shared, transmitted behaviour. In other words, tradition. We know that orcas, the largest members of the dolphin family, have distinct cultural groups, populations with their own dialects, their own food preferences, their own social traditions that are passed down through generations. A group of orcas that hunts salmon has a completely different culture from a group that hunts sharks or marine mammals, even if they live in the same waters. They do not interbreed. They do not share their traditions. They are, in a meaningful sense, different cultures. When we look at the whale and see a creature shaped entirely by deep time and water and the slow, patient work of evolution, we are also looking at a creature with a rich inner life, with relationships, with memory, with perhaps something like grief. Researchers have documented whales carrying their dead, so sperm whale mothers have been seen supporting the bodies of their dead calves at the surface, not leaving them, staying with them for days. Orca mothers have done the same. Humpbacks have been observed, gathered around the bodies of deceased companions. We do not know, and perhaps can never fully know, what this means to the whale. We cannot enter that mind. We cannot read that experience. But we can observe the behaviour. We can see that these creatures respond to death with something that looks, in its quiet way, like mourning. And if that makes you feel something, let yourself feel it gently. It does not need to be sharp or painful. It can simply be soft recognition, an acknowledgement that the world is full of feeling. In places we rarely look for it, that grief and love and memory are not exclusive to us. That deep in the ocean, in the blue, dark, enormous creatures carry their sorrows slowly through the water, and somehow that makes the world feel less lonely. Even when we are alone in our rooms, in the dark, with our own quiet sorrows, we are not the only ones. The world is wide and it is full of feeling. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 14. The Blue Whale. Let me tell you about the blue whale now, because I have mentioned it before in passing, but it deserves more. It deserves to be held gently in our minds for a little while, because it is the largest animal that has ever existed on this planet. Larger than any dinosaur. Larger than anything the fossil record has yet revealed. The biggest creature in the 4 billion year history of life on Earth. And it began as something you could hold in your hands. The blue whale can grow to 100 feet in length. To put that in terms you can feel, If you were standing at one end of a blue whale, the other end would be so far away you might strain to see it in dim light. Its tongue alone weighs as much as an elephant. Its heart, as I mentioned before, weighs about 400 pounds. When it dives, its heartbeat can slow to just 2 beats per minute. 2 beats per minute. Your heart at rest beats perhaps 60 times a minute. The blue whale's heart, on a deep dive, beats twice. 2 slow, enormous heartbeats in the dark and the cold, miles below the surface. And yet the blue whale is a gentle creature in the main. It eats krill, those tiny shrimp-like creatures, no bigger than your little finger. It opens its vast mouth and surges forward, engulfing hundreds of thousands of gallons of water and krill in a single lunge, then pushes the water out through its baleen plates, keeping the krill inside. The blue whale calls in frequencies below what the human ear can easily hear. Its calls are around 10 to 40 hertz, which is at the very bottom edge of human hearing. You would feel it more than hear it, perhaps. A deep vibration in the chest, like the lowest note on a pipe organ pressed in a cathedral. These calls can travel in the right conditions for hundreds or even thousands of miles through the ocean. The blue whale speaks in bass notes that cross entire ocean basins, and for much of the ocean's vast expanse, no one but another whale can hear. That image, the blue whale moving through the open Pacific, calling in tones too low for most ears, its voice travelling hundreds of miles through the dark water, its enormous heart beating twice a minute in the cold, is one of the most extraordinary images I know. It feels like something from the oldest part of time. Something so vast and quiet that it makes all human concerns seem for a moment very small. And I mean that kindly. I mean it as a relief. Your worries are real and they matter. But they are small next to the ocean. And the ocean has been here for billions of years. It will be here after everything you worry about has long since passed. And that, if you let it, is a deeply comforting thought. Let the ocean be vast tonight. Let it carry the blue whale across its dark surface, unhurried and immense. Let it be something larger than your thoughts. And let your thoughts grow smaller and softer in response. Like the shore receiving the sea. Chapter 15. The sperm whale's head. The sperm whale is different from the blue whale in almost every way, where the blue whale is sleek and vast, and feeds on the smallest possible creatures. The sperm whale is barrel-shaped and powerful, and hunts some of the largest prey in the ocean. Where the blue whale is a filter feeder, the sperm whale is a deep-sea predator. The sperm whale has the largest brain of any animal that has ever lived. Not the largest relative to body size, but the largest in absolute terms. A sperm whale's brain can weigh up to 20 pounds. For comparison, a human brain weighs about 3 pounds. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the sperm whale is its head. The head of a sperm whale makes up about 1/3 of its total body length, and it is mostly filled with a substance called spermaceti oil. This oil was the primary reason that humans hunted sperm whales so obsessively during the age of whaling, the 1700s and 1800s. Spermaceti was a fine, clear oil, perfect for lubricating machinery and making candles that burned cleaner and brighter than any other candle of the time. Ships crossed oceans and men died in storms, chasing these animals for their oil. But the function of the spermaceti organ in the living whale is something different, and something still not entirely understood. One theory is that it plays a role in echolocation. The sperm whale produces clicks in a special structure in its nose, and those clicks travel through the spermaceti organ, which may help focus them into a tight beam of sound that the whale uses to find and stun its prey. Another theory involves buoyancy. The spermaceti oil changes density with temperature. When cooled, it becomes denser and more solid. Some researchers believe the sperm whale can control the temperature of the oil in its head to become slightly heavier or lighter, helping it dive and ascend without as much muscular effort. Whatever the full explanation, the result, one is of the most unusual looking animals on Earth. A great rectangular block of a head, almost comical in its proportions, pushed forward like a battering ram. Inside it, oil and sound and mystery. Behind it, the largest brain in the animal kingdom. What does the sperm whale think about? We cannot know. But we know its world is rich with sound. We know it navigates the complete darkness of the deep ocean by listening to echoes. We know it lives in social groups with deep, lasting bonds. We know it communicates with other sperm whales in patterns of clicks called codas, sequences that differ between family groups, almost like accents or signatures. The sperm whale knows its family by the sound of their voice. It knows the ocean by the sound of its own echo. Its entire world is built from sound, in the way our world is built from light. We see, the whale hears. And both of us build our world from what we sense. Both of us construct a picture of reality from the information available to us. And both pictures are incomplete, and both are the only picture we have. That is a gentle reminder, I think, to hold our certainties a little loosely, to remember that the world may be larger and stranger than our particular senses can tell us, that there may be things we cannot hear, and things we cannot see, and yet they are there, real and extraordinary in the dark water. Let that thought be soft and open, not unsettling, just open, like a door left quietly ajar. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Another sleep reset. If you are still with me, you have been listening for a while now. The story has taken you deep, into the midnight zone of the ocean, into the mind of the whale, into the ancient songs that cross entire seas. Maybe you are very tired now. Maybe the words are becoming soft and blurry at the edges, like letters written in the steam on a mirror. That is exactly as it should be. There is no test at the end of this. Nothing to remember, nothing to repeat back. You are under no obligation to stay awake, or to understand, or to do anything at all except breathe and rest. If you have been lying on your back, perhaps your body would like to turn to one side now. That soft, curled position that we all find ourselves in when sleep becomes very close. The shape we make when we feel safe enough to be small. Let yourself be small. Let the room hold you. Let the story continue in whatever way it wants. A background murmur, a distant voice, a warm sound at the edge of a dream. You are safe here. You are doing everything right. Chapter 16, The Orca. Let's talk gently about the orca. The orca is technically a dolphin, the largest dolphin. It is also called the killer whale, a name given to it by Spanish sailors who once called it the whale killer, which was then reversed and softened over time into something that sounds more dramatic than they perhaps intended. Because while orcas are apex predators, at the very top of the ocean food chain, with no natural predators of their own, they are also something else entirely. They are family animals. The core of orca society is the mother. An orca stays with its mother for its entire life. Not just childhood, not just adolescence, its entire life. Even adult male orcas, the great bulls who can reach 30 feet in length and weigh 6 tons, stay close to their mothers. When a female orca dies, Her sons are statistically much more likely to die in the years that follow. The bond is that strong. Orca groups, called pods, move and hunt and rest and play together. They have territories. They have territories, though not rigidly defended ones. They have preferred routes through the ocean that they travel year after year, generation after generation. They teach their young how to hunt, and sometimes signs, in extraordinarily creative ways. Orcas in certain parts of the world have learned to intentionally beach themselves, sliding up onto the shore to catch sea lion pups, then wriggling back into the water. This is not instinct. This is a learned skill, taught by older whales to younger ones, a dangerous technique that requires practice and courage, and the guidance of experience. There are documented cases of older female orcas, past the age of reproduction, leading their pods during difficult years when salmon were scarce. These elder females, who could be 80 or 90 years old, seemed to carry knowledge of where food had been found in past lean years. And the pods that followed their guidance did better. The whales that had lived the longest knew the most, and their knowledge was the pod survival. We have a name for the human equivalent of this: wisdom. In the cold waters of the North Pacific, a 90-year-old female orca leads her family through the dark water toward food she remembers from decades past. Her sons, enormous and powerful, swim close beside her. Her grandchildren dart and play in her wake. She knows this ocean. She has known it her entire life. She knows where it is generous and where it is cold, and where the fish come in certain years and not in others. She carries this knowledge like a gift, and she gives it without asking for anything in return. That is something. That is more than something. Let that image rest with you. An old grandmother in the dark water, surrounded by her family, swimming through the night with calm certainty. She knows where she is going. She has always known. Maybe that is enough to fall asleep on. The knowledge that some things know their way, that the path exists even in the dark, that the ones who have been here longer carry something worth following. Let your breathing be slow. Let your thoughts be soft. The night is generous tonight. Chapter 17. Breatheth the surface. Every whale, no matter how deep it dives, must return to the surface to breathe. This is the thing that connects them to us most directly. They are air breathers, just like us. They need oxygen, just like us. No matter how perfectly adapted to the water they have become, no matter how long they can hold their breath, they cannot stay down forever. At some point they must rise. And when they do, it is one of the most beautiful things in the natural world. The blue whale surfaces and exhales a column of warm, moist air that shoots 30 feet into the sky. In cold weather, this condensed breath is visible from miles away, a white plume rising from the flat grey ocean like a small, soft fountain. To the whale watchers on boats, it is the first sign. The spout, the breath, the signal that something enormous is just below the surface. For a moment, the whale breathes, just breathes. After 90 minutes in the dark, after thousands of feet of pressure and blackness and echolocating silence, it rises into the light and it breathes. And then it goes back down. That moment at the surface, that one breath, that connection with the world of air and light, and then the return to the deep. I find this endlessly moving. The whale lives mostly in a world we cannot enter and can barely imagine. But it comes back, regularly, faithfully, to the boundary between our world and its own. It breaks the surface for just a moment, exchanges one atmosphere for another, and descends again. We are all, in our own ways, sometimes surfacing, sometimes coming up from the depths of our own inner world. Our own private dark, and breathing and returning. There is no shame in spending time in the deep. The whale does it most beautifully. And there is no shame in needing to surface, in needing the air, in needing the light. Come up when you need to. Breathe. And then it is okay to go back down. The depth is not a punishment. It is simply where you live part of your life. Right now, let yourself surface. Let one full, slow breath carry you up to the light for just a moment, in and out. Good. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 18. The Sound of Deep Time. We have covered a great distance tonight. We began 50 million years ago on the shore of a warm and ancient sea, with a small creature standing uncertain at the water's edge. We have followed its descendants through millions of years of change, watching as legs became flippers and nostrils became blowholes and small. River-dwelling animals came the largest creatures that have ever lived on this planet. Daffodils. We have listened to their songs. We have followed them across oceans. We have gone with them into the deep dark and back to the breathing surface. We have met their families and their elders and their young. And in all of it, there is one thing I keep coming back to. One quiet truth that hums beneath all the facts and all the stories. Change is possible. Not overnight, not in a hurry, not with great drama or decision or willpower, but possible, deeply and completely possible. Given enough time and enough gentleness and enough small, patient steps. The animal that walked on land became the animal that sings across oceans, not by trying, not by striving, simply by being exactly what it was, in exactly the place it found itself, and then slowly, gradually becoming a little more. You do not have to become a whale tonight. You do not have to change anything. All you have to do is rest here, in the warm quiet, and let the slow processes of the world continue around you. The earth is turning. The whales are swimming. Somewhere in the dark Pacific, a humpback is beginning its song, the same song all the males in that ocean are singing this year. A song that will be slightly different next year, changed by small innovations passed from one singer to the next. The song is always changing, and it is always the song. We are going to think about what the ocean is, not just as a fact, but as a feeling, as a presence, as something so old and so deep and so full that it makes even the whale seem small, and makes the whale's 50 million year story seem almost brief. And then when the ocean has settled around us like a warm current, we are going to return to the whales and learn a few more of their secrets. Come with me. Slowly. For a moment. Just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 20. The Age of Water. The ocean is old. When we say old, we mean old in a way that is almost impossible to imagine. The Earth itself is about 4.5 billion years old. The first oceans appeared about 4 billion years ago, when the young planet had cooled enough for water vapor to condense into liquid, falling as rain for millions of years until the low places of the Earth filled with water. 4 billion years. If you were to compress the entire history of Earth into a single year, starting on the 1st of January, the first oceans would appear sometime in early February. The first simple life, single-celled organisms in those early seas would appear around March. The first complex cells would not appear until around July. The first animals with bodies, creatures we might recognize as animals at all, would not appear until mid-November. The dinosaurs would arrive on December 15th, and they would go extinct on December 26th. The ancestors of the whale would return to the sea on December 30th. And humans? Modern humans would appear in this compressed year sometime on the afternoon of December 31st. The last few hours of the last day. Everything we know of as human history, every empire, and every invention, and every war, and every discovery, and every song ever written, and every word ever spoken, all of it would fit into the last few minutes of December 31st. We arrived very recently. The ocean was already ancient when we got here. Let that settle in the quiet of your mind, not as something frightening, but as something deeply restful. We are new here. We are small here, and the world got along just fine for billions of years before we arrived to notice it. There is something so relieving in that. All the urgency we feel, all the pressure to accomplish and achieve and be remembered, set against 4 billion years of ocean, it becomes very light, very manageable, almost sweetly small. You are a very recent thing in a very old world, and the world is not asking you to do anything tonight except rest. Let the ocean be old around you. Let its 4 billion years of patience be your permission to let go. Chapter 21. The Whale and the Deep Current. The ocean moves, not just on the surface, with its waves and tides, though those are movements we can see, but deep below, up high, in the dark water, there are great rivers of current that flow through the ocean like slow breathing. These currents carry warm water from the tropics toward the poles and cold water from the poles back toward the equator. They mix the nutrients and the temperatures and the oxygen of the sea in patterns that have shaped the climate of the Earth for millions of years. This system of currents is sometimes called the ocean conveyor belt, or, more beautifully, the thermohaline circulation. Thermo for heat, haline for salt, the circulation driven by differences in temperature and saltiness across the ocean. Cold water is denser than warm water. Salty water is denser than fresh water. When warm surface water moves toward the poles and cools, it becomes denser and sinks. And when it sinks, it pushes the water below it forward, creating a current that flows along the deep sea floor for thousands of miles, before eventually rising somewhere else, warmed and mixed back toward the surface. This circulation takes about 1,000 years to complete one full cycle. 1,000 years. Water that is rising toward the surface in the Pacific Ocean today may have sunk near Greenland 1,000 years ago. When the Vikings were settling Iceland and the Song dynasty was ruling China, the ocean holds time differently than we do. The whales move within this system of currents, not consciously, not by choosing to follow the conveyor belt, but they know where the cold, upwelling water brings nutrients to the surface, where the krill gather in those rich patches, where the fish are schooling. They navigate by temperature and chemistry, by the taste and feel and sound of the water around them. The ocean tells them where to go, and they listen. Imagine, for a moment, moving through a world where the water itself is full of information, where you can taste the direction of a cold current, where you can feel the temperature gradient that tells you food is nearby, where the sound of the water, its particular texture and echo, tells you exactly where you are in a featureless expanse of open sea. The whale does not need landmarks. The ocean is its map, and the ocean is always changing, or always moving, always telling a slightly different story. And the whale is always listening. There is something deeply beautiful about that kind of attention, about moving through the world in constant, quiet dialogue with your surroundings, about trusting the water to tell you what you need to know. Tonight, let the air in your room be like that water. Let it carry information. Let it tell you softly that you are somewhere safe and warm, that the night is long and quiet, that nothing urgent is moving through the air tonight. just rest. Just float. Let the currents carry you. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 22. The Nurseries of the Sea. Every year in the warm, shallow waters of certain bays and lagoons around the world, something extraordinary happens. The whales come to give birth. The grey whale, for example, makes one of the longest migrations of any mammal on Earth. From its feeding grounds in the cold waters of the Arctic, it travels south along the Pacific coast of North America, all the way to the warm, protected lagoons of Baja California, on the western coast of Mexico. There, in the calm, shallow water, sheltered from the open Pacific by long, low spits of sand, the female grey whales give birth. The lagoons are quiet. The water is warm. The light, where it filters through the shallow water, plays in soft gold patterns on the sandy bottom. And in this gentle place, grey whale calves are born. A grey whale calf is about 15 feet long at birth. It weighs about a ton. But despite its size, it is helpless and new and full of wonder about the world it has just arrived in. Its mother stays close, guiding it to the surface to breathe, nursing it on milk so rich in fat that the calf gains hundreds of pounds each week. For a few months, this lagoon is the entire world. The calf learns the smell of its mother, the sound of her voice, the warmth of her body in the water beside it. It learns how to swim, how to breathe, how to stay close when the water is uncertain. And then, when spring comes and the calf is strong enough, they leave. Together, north, back up the long coast to the cold, food-rich waters of the Arctic, where the calf will eat its first solid food, will learn to navigate, will grow from a newborn into something powerful and capable. That first journey, 10,000 miles beside its mother, is the education of a grey whale, and the mother has made this journey before. She knows the way. She has been to the lagoon, and back to the Arctic, and back to the lagoon again, in cycles that span decades. She carries the route inside her, as reliable and constant as a heartbeat. Knowing the way back. Isn't that a comforting phrase? Knowing the way back. No matter how far you go, there is a way back. The whale knows this. The ocean holds the route, and the whale's body holds the knowledge, and the miles between departure and return are simply the journey. Simply the story. You are in the middle of your own story tonight. In the middle, somewhere. Not at the beginning and not at the end. And the story is moving, slowly, the way all good stories move. And somewhere in it, there is always a way back to something warm and safe. Let that be enough for right now. Let that be the thought you carry into the deeper part of sleep. A sleep reset. Gently. Stop here for just a moment. Notice where your body is right now. Notice the weight of your arms, the warmth of the blanket or the sheets, the soft pressure of the pillow. Notice whether your jaw is tight, and if it is, let it go soft. Notice whether your forehead is furrowed, and if it is, smooth it gently. You have been listening to this story for a while now, and maybe you are very close to sleep. Maybe the words are coming to you like sounds from the next room, clear enough to follow, soft enough not to pull you fully back. That is exactly right. You can stay there, in that soft middle place. You do not need to come fully awake. You do not need to try to remember. Just let the voice continue. Let the story flow past you like warm water. And whenever sleep comes, let it come. There is more story here whenever you want it. But sleep is always the better offer. Take it if it is here. Chapter 23. The Humpback's Journey. Let's follow a humpback whale for a little while. She is a female, large and old by whale standards. Her body, dark grey on top and white beneath, carries the marks of a long life. scars from encounters with other whales, old barnacle patches, the particular notch pattern on the underside of her tail, flukes that researchers use to identify her individually, like a fingerprint. Scientists have named her, they usually do, for whales they track repeatedly. But tonight, let's just call her what she is, an elder, a traveller, someone who has known the ocean for a very long time. She is in the waters near the island of Tonga right now in the South Pacific. The water around her is warm and clear and very blue. She has just given birth a few days ago to a calf who is already enormous by most standards, and still impossibly small by hers. The calf swims close to her, tucked in the slipstream her body creates, pulled along almost effortlessly by the pressure wave she pushes ahead of her. She is not feeding here. There is not much to eat in these warm, clear tropical waters. She is here only to give birth, to nurse her calf in safety and warmth, to give it the first weeks of its life in sheltered water before the long journey begins. In a few months, they will go south, down through the Pacific, following the growing cold, toward Antarctic, where the summer is beginning and the krill are gathering in vast pink clouds beneath the surface. That journey will take them several months. The calf will grow strong on its mother's milk, gaining hundreds of pounds a week, until its body is thick with the fat it will need for its first winter. She has made this journey many times before. She was born in warm water, like her calf. She made her first migration south beside her own mother decades ago. She knows the route in a way that goes beyond conscious memory. It is written in her body. As she swims, she calls, low moaning sounds that travel far through the water. She is not singing the elaborate songs the males sing, but she is communicating, keeping contact with her calf, perhaps communicating with other whales in the area, though they are spread across miles of open water and invisible to the eye. The ocean carries her voice. It always has, it always will. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 24. What we almost lost. This is a gentle chapter. I want to tell you something that could be sad, but I want to tell it softly, and I want to end it with something that I think is true and good. Between the 1700s and the mid-1900s, humans hunted whales on a scale that is almost incomprehensible. Sperm whales were hunted for their oil and their spermaceti. Humpbacks, blue whales, fin whales, and right whales were hunted for their oil and their baleen. Ships sailed from ports in Europe and North America and Japan and many other places. And they crossed every other places, and they killed whales in numbers that brought many species to the very edge of extinction. The blue whale, the largest animal that has ever lived, was reduced from an estimated population of several 100,000 to perhaps just a few hundred individuals in the Southern Ocean. By the time major international protections began to take effect, in the 1960s and 1970s, a few hundred animals. Out of hundreds of thousands, the right whale was nearly wiped out entirely. It was called the right whale because it was the right whale to hunt, slow and fat, and it floated when killed. That name, which once sounded like a hunter's joke, now sounds like a terrible irony. I tell you this not to create pain or anger in the soft quiet of your rest. I tell it because it is part of the story, because the whales we are celebrating tonight, these ancient, extraordinary creatures who carry 50 million years of ocean history in their bodies, these creatures who sing across seas and remember their routes and mourn their dead and teach their young to hunt. These creatures came very close to being gone, and they are not gone. That is the part I want to stay with. They are not gone. In 1986, a global moratorium on commercial whaling was agreed upon by most of the world's nations. It was not perfect, and it has not been perfectly followed, but it was something. A choice made by humans to stop, to step back, to say this must not continue. And then, slowly, some whale populations have been recovering. The humpback whale was once considered endangered. Its numbers drastically reduced from historical levels. Today, the global humpback population is estimated at over 80,000 animals and growing in most regions. It was removed from the endangered species list in many areas in 2016. 80,000 voices in the ocean. 80,000 great bodies moving through the water. 80,000 pairs of eyes surfacing into the light. It is not what it was before the hunting. It may never be exactly that again. But it is growing. The ocean is filling up again, slowly with song. Change can go in the wrong direction and then come back. Damage can be healed slowly, with time and care, and the patient insistence of life. The whale knows something about this. It has been here before, in geological terms. It has survived extinctions and climate shifts, and the slow rearrangement of the world. It has endured, and it is enduring now. Let that sit gently with you. The song is coming back into the ocean. The voices are returning. Not as fast as we might hope, not as complete as we might wish, but they are there. The world is trying to heal itself, and sometimes we are helping. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 25. The Whale and the Stars. Here is something that may surprise you. Humpback whales navigate partly by the stars, or at least that is one theory. Still being studied, still debated, but there is evidence that suggests some whales, on their long open ocean migrations, use the position of the sun and possibly the stars as navigational cues, in addition to the Earth's magnetic field and the chemistry of the water. Think about that for a moment. A humpback whale in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, miles from any shore, in the dark of a night with no moon, swimming south toward Antarctica, may be reading the stars above. The same stars that human sailors have navigated by for thousands of years. The same stars that ancient peoples used to tell their stories and mark their seasons. The same stars you might look at on a clear night and feel that familiar, wordless sense of how large everything is. The whale and the sailor and the ancient astronomer all looking upward at the same points of light, all finding their way by the same distant fires. We are not so separate from the natural world. We imagine ourselves apart from it, with our buildings and our roads and our screens. But the whale reads the same stars we do. The salt in our blood is almost exactly the same concentration as ancient seawater. The rhythm of our sleep and waking follows the same sun that warms the ocean surface where the whale breathes. We are inside nature. We always have been. We never left. And at night, when we lie in the dark and let the day go, we are perhaps more inside it than at any other time. Our bodies doing what bodies have always done, resting, repairing, dreaming, in the dark, under the stars, on a planet that is turning slowly through space. The same planet where the whale swims, the same dark, the same stars. Let that connection be soft and real tonight. You are not alone in the dark. You are part of something so much larger and so much older than any single life. You are the universe. Resting. For a moment, just breathe. Chapter 26. The Language of Touch. There is one more thing I want to tell you tonight before we begin to drift toward the end of this part of the story. Whales touch each other. It sounds simple. But let me tell you how. Mother whales touch their calves constantly. The calf swims tucked against its mother's side, in near constant physical contact. The mother guides the calf with gentle pressure from her flipper. She steers it, calms it, holds it close in moments of uncertainty. The physical bond between a whale mother and her calf is among the most tender things in the animal world. Adult whales touch each other too. Humpbacks have been observed in gentle, prolonged contact, resting together at the surface, touching flippers, rolling slowly against each other, in what can only be described as affection. Dolphins and porpoises engage in constant physical contact within their groups. Even the enormous sperm whales, those deep-diving giants, have been seen rubbing against each other slowly in the warm tropical water, socializing in a way that is slow and deliberate and clearly chosen. Touch is one of the oldest languages, older than words, older than sound, even. The first living things that touched each other and responded to touch had no brain to speak of, no nervous system as we would recognize it. Just the simple responsiveness of a cell membrane to contact. And yet, hundreds of millions of years later, a whale calf presses close against its mother's side in warm water, and something that deserves to be called comfort passes between them. And hundreds of millions of years later, a person lying in a dark room reaches out to hold a pillow closer, or feels the warmth of a blanket against their skin, and something that also deserves to be called cold comfort passes through them. We are so old, this need for touch, so ancient, so continuous across all the lives that have ever lived. You are warm right now, I hope. Your blanket or your sheet, the weight of it, the small pressure of it against your body, that is not nothing. That is the ancient language of comfort, available to you right now, without effort. Let yourself receive it. Let the warmth be enough. Let the weight be enough. Let the quiet be enough. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 27. The Patience of the Sea. We are near the end of this third part now. We have come a long way from where we began. In the first part, we stood on the shore of the ancient Tethys Sea, watching a small creature wade into warm water 50 million years ago. In the second part, we went deep, following the whale into the midnight zone and back to the breathing surface, listening to its songs and learning something of its mind. In this part, we have floated in the ocean itself. We have felt its 4 billion year age. We have followed the currents that carry warm water across the world. We have sat beside a newborn calf in a warm lagoon. We have learned what was almost lost, and what is slowly, carefully coming back. And now, before we let this part come to a gentle close, I want to say something about patience. The ocean is the most patient thing I know. It has been here for 4 billion years. It has received the rivers. It has absorbed the rain. It has held the heat of the sun and carried it around the world. It has dissolved mountains. It has grown and shrunk and warmed and cooled. It has harboured the first life and the most complex life and every life in between. It has never been in a hurry, and the whale which lives in it and moves through it and listens to it has some of that patience in its nature. The whale that waits 1,000 miles from its feeding ground for the right current. The whale that dives for an hour and a half without breath and rises slowly back to the surface. The whale that sings for 20 minutes and then begins again. Time moves differently in the ocean, and time can move differently in your body tonight too. The minutes do not need to be busy. They do not need to be filled. They can simply pass, the way water passes over stone, smooth and continuous and without urgency. You are inside the ocean of the night right now. It is wide and dark and generous. It is holding you without effort. It has no demands. It does not care what time you fall asleep, or how long you sleep, or what you dream about. It simply holds you, the way the ocean holds the whale, completely and without condition. We have travelled far together in this story. We have gone back 50 million years and watched the ancestors of the whale take their first uncertain steps into the water. We have followed them through millions of years of slow, patient change. We have gone deep into the midnight zone of the ocean and listened to songs that cross entire seas. We have met newborn calves in warm lagoons and grandmother orcas leading their families through the dark. Tonight we slow down even further. Tonight we are not rushing toward new facts. We are letting the ones we already know settle deeper into us, the way sediment settles in still water, slowly, quietly, finding its place. This part of the story is less about learning and more about feeling. Less about information and more about rest. We will still follow the whale, still visit the ocean, still learn a few more gentle things. But the pace is slower now, the light is dimmer, and the whole direction of the story is pointing towards sleep. Come with me. One last time before the end. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 29. The silence between sounds. There is a place in the ocean called the Sofar Channel. Sofar stands for sound fixing and ranging. It is a layer of water, somewhere between a few hundred and a few thousand feet below the surface, where the temperature and the pressure of the water combine in just the right way to trap sound. Sound that enters this layer does not scatter upward or downward. It stays in the channel, bouncing back and forth within it, travelling horizontally for extraordinary distances with almost no loss of energy. The Sofar channel is, in a sense, the ocean's speaking tube, its long-distance communication system. A sound produced in this channel can travel across an entire ocean basin. Blue whales call in frequencies that travel particularly well through the Sofar channel. Their low, resonant moans enter the channel and travel, and travel, and travel, thousands of miles, across the Pacific, across the Atlantic, carrying the voice of one enormous creature to another, somewhere on the other side of the world. For most of human history, we did not know this channel existed. We did not know the ocean had its own communication network, vast and deep, and operating continuously beneath the surface of our awareness. And then in the mid-20th century, when underwater microphones called hydrophones were placed in the ocean to listen for submarines during the Cold War, the researchers monitoring them heard something unexpected. They heard the whales. They heard the long, deep calls travelling enormous distances through the Sofar channel. They heard what the whales had been saying to each other for millions of years in a language of sound and depth and distance, and entirely beneath our notice until that moment. The ocean had been full of voices all along. We just had not been listening. There are so many things like this in the world. Things happening just below the level of our attention. Conversations in frequencies we cannot hear. Colours outside the range our eyes can see. Lives being lived in places we have never looked. The world is so much fuller than our particular senses can tell us. And most of what is happening in it has nothing to do with us. It was happening before us, and it will continue after us. And this is not a sad thought tonight. Let it be a restful one. You do not have to be aware of everything. You do not have to monitor every frequency. The world carries on beautifully in your inattention. The Sofar channel carries its voices across the ocean. whether you are listening or not. The whales are speaking, the currents are turning, the deep is deep. You can let go of the duty to be aware. You can simply be one small warm thing, resting, in a world full of extraordinary activity that needs nothing from you tonight except your own quiet presence. Let that be enough. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 30. The weight of blue. Think about the colour blue for a moment. Not just any blue. The blue of deep ocean water. It is not the bright, cheerful blue of a swimming pool or a clear sky on a summer day. It is something older and deeper. A blue so saturated and so dark that it becomes nearly black at depth. A blue that carries the weight of miles of water above it. A blue that has never been touched by sunlight. The ocean is blue because water absorbs red light and scatters blue light. The longer the wavelength of light, the more easily water absorbs it. Red wavelengths disappear within the first few feet of water. Orange follows. Then yellow, then green. What remains in deep, clear water is blue. Pure, deep, ancient blue. When a whale dives into this blue, it carries the light of the surface with it for only a moment. A brief brightness around its body as it descends. And then the blue deepens and closes, and the light is gone, and the whale moves in darkness so complete that even its own body is invisible, and still it goes, and still it knows where it is. There is something in me that finds this image profoundly calming. The descent into blue, the disappearance of light, the certainty of the creature in the dark, the knowledge that it will rise again, when it needs to, into the light and the air and the breathing surface. Going into the dark does not mean staying there forever. Closing your eyes does not mean not finding your way. Letting the light go for a while is not the same as losing it. The whale dives in perfect trust. The dark is not its enemy. The dark is simply where it goes to do what it does. And then it rises, exhales that beautiful warm cloud of breath, takes what it needs from the air and descends again. Down and up, the rhythm of a whale's life. Down and up, not so different from the rhythm of breathing, not so different from the rhythm of sleep and waking, in and out, under and over, dark and light. Let yourself be in the downward part of that rhythm right now, the descent, the blue, the quiet deep. You will surface again when you need to. For now, just go down, slowly, easily, without fear. The deep is waiting for you, and it is very quiet there. A sleep reset, the deepest one. If you are still with me, you have been listening for a long time now, and your body knows this, even if your mind is still trying to follow the words. Your eyes are heavy, or they are already closed. Your breathing is slower than it was when we began. The thoughts that felt important at the start of the night have become smaller and softer. They are still there, perhaps, somewhere at the edges, but they are not pressing. They have learned tonight to wait. Let them wait. You do not have to resolve anything tonight. You do not have to understand anything or decide anything or prepare for anything. All of that can wait until tomorrow or until it is needed, and none of it needs you right now. Right now, the only thing that needs you is rest. Yawn if you need to. A slow, full, generous yawn. Let your arms go heavy. Let your legs go heavy. Let your whole body become something the bed holds, rather than something you hold up. And if sleep comes in the middle of the next sentence, let it come. You have been carrying the weight of the day long enough. You can put it down now. The story will be here if you want it, but sleep is always the better offer. Chapter 31. Deep Time and Small Lives. Here is the thing about deep time that I keep returning to. We use the phrase deep time to mean geological time, the millions and billions of years that have shaped the Earth. The slow processes of plate tectonics and evolution, and the rise and fall of sea levels, the kind of time that makes a human lifetime seem like the blink of an eye. And yes, in one sense, a human lifetime is very short compared to deep time. 50 million years of whale evolution makes our individual lives seem brief almost beyond measure. But here is what I want to say about that. Brief does not mean small. A mayfly lives for one day. A single day, from the moment it emerges from the water as an adult to the moment it dies. One day. And yet, in that one day, it finds a mate. It dances in the air above the river in great, swirling columns with thousands of other mayflies. It lays its eggs, it completes a whole life cycle one day. And it is complete. Or your life compared to the age of the ocean is something like a mayfly's day compared to your life. A brief, bright moment. A single note in a very long song. But a single note, played clearly and truly, is not small. It is essential. Without it, the song is different. Without it, something is missing that cannot be replaced. You are a note in a song that is 4 billion years old, and the song needed this note. It needs it right now, in this moment, wherever you are. Your smallness in deep time does not diminish you. It places you. It gives you your exact particular spot in the enormous whole. The whale has its spot too. The krill have theirs. The first single-celled organism that divided in the warm, shallow sea of early Earth had its spot. The warm Tethys Sea had its spot. The grandmother Orca has hers, and you have yours. Right here, right now, in this warm, quiet room, with the night around you, and the blanket over you, and the slow, soft sound of your own breathing. This is your note. Let it be what it is. Clear and small and real and perfectly placed. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 30. 2. What the whale does not worry about. The whale does not worry about time. It does not lie awake at 2 a.m. thinking about the things it should have done differently. It does not replay conversations from earlier in the day, wondering if it said the wrong thing. It does not make lists of everything it needs to accomplish before the week is over. The whale is in the water. Its body knows what to do. Its instincts and its learning and its memory work together without effort. And the whale simply moves and breathes and eats and sings and rests and moves again. I am not saying the whale has no inner life. We talked about that earlier, how the whale may experience something like grief, something like joy, something like the deep satisfaction of a successful hunt. Its inner life may be richer than we know. But the whale's inner life is not tangled in the particular kind of suffering that comes from being always 2 steps ahead of yourself, from living in the future rather than the present, from measuring this moment against some imagined better moment that has not arrived yet. The whale is in the water. The water is now. The dive is now. The breath at the surface is now. Now is the only place the whale lives. And now, tonight, is the only place you need to live. Not tomorrow morning. Not the week ahead. Not the things unfinished, or the conversations unresolved, or the worries that will still be waiting when the sun comes up. Just now, this breath, this warmth, this quiet, the whale in the dark water, and you here, in your own kind of dark water, both of you breathing, both of you in the now. Let that be a gentle solidarity, a kinship across the miles and the depths and the 50 million years. You are not alone in simply being here in a body, in the present moment, breathing in and breathing out. Every creature that has ever lived has done exactly this. been here, breathed, and then not been here, and while they were here, they were fully, completely, irreplaceably here. So are you. Right now, you are completely here. Even at the edge of sleep, even with your thoughts softening and your body growing heavy, you are here. Breathing, real, complete. Let that be enough. Let it be more than enough. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 33. The oldest song scientists have found a whale they call the loneliest whale in the world. In the 1980s and 1990s, researchers tracking whale calls in the Pacific Ocean detected a whale calling at a frequency of about 52 Hz. This is unusual. Most baleen whales call at much lower frequencies. Blue whales call between 10 and 40 Hz. Fin whales call around 20 Hz. But this whale called at 52 Hz, a frequency that no other known whale species uses. This means that if any other whales were listening, they likely could not hear it. Its calls would be in a range outside the normal hearing sensitivity of the whales around it. For years, this whale, known as 52 Blue, travelled the Pacific, calling in its unique frequency. And as far as researchers could tell, no other whale ever answered. The loneliest whale in the world. Now, I told you earlier that I want you to rest, not to feel pain, and I mean that. So let me tell you this gently, and then let me give it a gentler ending. The story of 52 Blue moved many people deeply when it became known to the public. It was covered in newspapers and discussed in classrooms, and became the subject of a documentary. And what struck people most, I think, was not just the whale's apparent loneliness, but the recognition. The recognition of something in themselves. Of times when they had spoken and not been heard. Of times when their particular frequency had not matched the world around them. Of the experience of calling out into a world that seems tuned to other voices. Many people know something about that, but here is the gentle ending I promised. We do not know that 52 Blue was lonely. We assume loneliness because we imagine how we would feel, but the whale does not know that other whales cannot hear it. It does not compare its situation to a hypothetical different situation. It calls because calling is what it does. It moves through the Pacific because moving is what it does. And in recent years, research that 52 Blue may not be entirely unique anymore. There have been detections of calls at similar unusual frequencies. Other whales with unusual voices. Perhaps even some that could hear 52 Blue's calls, or calls near its range. The ocean is full of voices we have not yet catalogued, full of frequencies we have not yet heard, full of connections we have not yet mapped. Perhaps the loneliest whale was never as alone as we thought. And perhaps on the nights when you feel most alone, you are never quite as alone as you think either. The world is full of frequencies. Some of them are yours, and somewhere in the vast and uncharted ocean of other lives, something is listening at your frequency. The ocean carries all the voices, even the unusual ones, even the ones that seem to go unanswered. Let that be soft comfort tonight. Your voice matters, your frequency is real, and the ocean is very large. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 34. The places whales rest, whales sleep. I find this endlessly comforting. These vast, powerful, ocean-crossing creatures, these singers and divers and navigators, they sleep. They do not sleep the way we do. They cannot go fully unconscious in the water, because breathing is not automatic for them the way it is for us. If a whale lost all consciousness, it would stop breathing and drown. So instead, they do something remarkable. They let half of their brain sleep at a time. This is called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One hemisphere of the brain, one side, goes into the slow, restful brainwave patterns of sleep. The other hemisphere stays awake, managing breathing, monitoring the environment, keeping the body gently moving at the surface. And then the halves switch. The sleeping side wakes, and the waking side rests. Half asleep and half awake, floating at the surface in what researchers call logging, because the whale floats as still as a log, barely moving, just rising and falling with the gentle swell of the sea. Imagine it, a group of sperm whales floating at the surface in the open Pacific. Their enormous bodies still for once, not diving, not calling, not hunting. Just floating, just resting, their eyes half closed, their breathing slow. The ocean lifting them gently, up and down, up and down. Sperm whales have been found resting this way in groups, all oriented in the same direction, heads slightly up, bodies vertical just below the surface, motionless in the blue water. It looks like a group of very large, very quiet friends sharing a moment of mutual rest. Scientists who first encountered groups of sperm whales resting this way were startled. They had never seen whales so still. They were sleeping, all of them, together in the open sea. There is something so tender about this image. These enormous creatures that have crossed entire ocean basins, that have dived miles into the dark, that carry the memory of 50 million years of ocean life in their bodies, floating quietly together at the surface, half asleep, trusting the ocean to hold them, trusting the world to be safe enough for rest. You are doing the same thing right now, trusting the world to be safe enough, letting yourself float, half in and half out of waking, held by the soft surface of sleep. The whale does not fight sleep. It does not decide that it has too much left to do. It floats and it lets one hemisphere go quiet, and then the other, and it trusts that when it needs to dive again, it will be ready. Trust your rest the whale trusts the sea. Let the waves carry you. Let the body do what it knows to do. You are a logging whale tonight, still and quiet and held by something larger than yourself. Go easy now. Chapter 35. We are near the end of this fourth part of our journey, and I want to spend a few quiet minutes with a simple question. What remains? When a whale dies, its body sinks, slowly drifting down, through the water column, through the dimming blue, through the twilight zone, through the midnight zone, all the way down to the seafloor. This is called a whale fall, and it is one of the most remarkable events in the deep ocean ecosystem. A whale fall creates a habitat. When the enormous body of a whale reaches the seafloor, it becomes a feast, an oasis, a whole world for the creatures of the deep. First come the mobile scavengers, hagfish and sleeper sharks and crabs, feeding on the soft tissue for months. Then come the enrichment opportunists, creatures that colonize the bones and the surrounding sediment, enriching it with nutrients. And then, in the final stage, come the sulfophilic bacteria, organisms that break down the lipids, the fats, locked in the whale's enormous bones, producing hydrogen sulfide, which in turn supports entire communities of specialized creatures, tube worms and clams and snails and crustaceans that live nowhere else on Earth. A single whale fall can support a unique ecosystem for decades. 50 years or more from the moment the body touches the bottom to the moment the last bone is finally dissolved. A whale that dies gives 50 years of life to the creatures of the deep. Even in death, the whale is generous. its body becomes a world, a new habitat, a home for things that would have no home without it. There is something in this that I find profoundly moving, and I want to offer it to you gently, as something to carry into sleep. What we are does not disappear. It changes form. It becomes something else. The whale's body becomes 100 other lives. The water the whale drank and moved through carries the minerals of its body back into the ocean. The sound of its voice still moves, in theory, in some attenuated form through the water. Nothing is wasted. Nothing simply ends. It becomes the next thing, and the next thing after that. You too are part of this continuous transformation. The atoms in your body have been part of other things before. Stars and oceans and ancient creatures and rain, and they will be part of other things after. You are not a fixed thing. You are a temporary gathering of ancient material, organized into something that can think and feel and breathe and rest. And on certain quiet nights, listen to stories about whales. That is not small. That is extraordinary. Let the extraordinary weight of it press you gently into the mattress tonight. You are made of old things. You are going on to be new things. And right now in the middle, you are exactly this. Warm and breathing and here. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 36. The Patience of Becoming. Before we close this part and let you drift toward the deepest sleep, I want to say one more thing. We began this story with the idea of becoming a small, land-walking creature that became, over 50 million years, the largest animal in the history of the Earth. The idea that enormous change is possible, given enough time, and enough patience, and enough small steps in the same direction. I have been thinking about what that means for us. Not in a pressured way, not in the way that self-improvement culture sometimes takes the whale's story and turns it into a lesson about hustle and transformation and becoming your best self. That is not what I mean. I mean something softer. I mean that we are all always in the middle of becoming something. Not because we are trying to, not because we are pushing ourselves forward, but simply because that is what living things do. They change, slowly, continuously, in response to their environment, their experiences, their losses and their joys, and their ordinary days. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago. The cells of your body have been replaced many times over. Your ideas have shifted. The things that matter to you have changed. You have learned things and forgotten things and unlearned things and relearned them differently. You are becoming right now even as you sleep. The brain consolidates memory during sleep. It processes the day's experiences, moving some into long-term storage, releasing others. It rehearses skills, repairs tissues, regulates hormones. Sleep is not the absence of becoming, it is a crucial part of it. The whale's ancestors did not transform while they were doing something dramatic. They transformed during ordinary life. Eating, swimming, sleeping, having young, dying. The transformation happened in the spaces between the dramatic moments, in the quiet, unremarkable days, in the rest. There is no rush to reach the end of it. In fact, I hope you never reach the end of it. I hope the words become softer and softer. I hope the words become softer and softer until they are simply a warm sound at the edge of sleep. And you drift away somewhere in the middle, into whatever dreams are waiting for you. That would be the best possible ending. Get comfortable one more time. The final time for tonight. Let the pillow be exactly right. Let the blanket settle. Let your body go heavy and still. Take one slow breath in and let it go. We are going to the shore tonight. the very edge of the ocean, the place where the water meets the land, where the story of the whale, in some deep and circular way, began and continues and will continue long after we are gone. Come with me, slowly, without hurry. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 38. The Edge of the Water. Imagine you are standing at the edge of the ocean. It is evening. The sun is low, somewhere behind clouds that have turned the sky a soft, pale grey with traces of gold near the... The water in front of you is dark and calm. Small waves arrive at your feet with a sound like a long, slow exhale. Each one comes in, spreads thin and silver across the sand, and pulls back with a soft, whispering drag. In and out, in and out. You are not cold. There is a warmth in the air, the last warmth of the day, held close to the ground by the humidity coming off the sea. The sand beneath your feet is soft and slightly damp, and it holds the shape of where you are standing. You are here, right here, at the edge. Behind you is the land, everything you know, everything you have built and remembered and worried about and loved. All of it is behind you, and in front of you is the ocean, everything vast and ancient and still mostly unknown. Everything that has been here since before memory. Everything that is still becoming, slowly, without hurry. In the deep blue dark. You do not have to choose between them. You do not have to go in or go back. You can simply stand here at the edge and let the waves come and go around your feet. This is where the story of the whale began. At an edge just like this one. 50 million years ago, a small creature stood and felt the water around its feet, and did not yet know what it was becoming. It simply stood and felt, and was present to the moment. And slowly, over millions of years, the water called it in. Not dramatically, not all at once, just gently, tide by tide, generation by generation, the water called it in, and it went. And it became something extraordinary. Let the waves come around your feet in your imagination tonight. Let the sound of them be real enough to hear. That long, soft exhale, that gentle, withdrawing drag. Let the salt air be real enough to smell. You are at the edge of something. You always are. And the ocean is patient. It is in no hurry. It will wait. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 39. The things we carry. Every whale carries its history in its body. Those tiny vestigial bones, tucked deep in the flesh near the tail, remnants of the legs that once walked on land. The blowhole, once a nose at the tip of a snout, now resting at the very top of the skull. The flippers inside which there is a skeleton of 5 fingers, the same 5 fingers that the early land ancestors used to walk, now wrapped in blubber and skin into a smooth paddle shape. 5 fingers. Inside every whale flipper, invisible from the outside, present in every X-ray. The whale carries its walking past in the shape of its swimming present. We do this too. We carry our past in our bodies. In the way our eyes evolved for colour vision in trees, where distinguishing ripe fruit from leaves was a matter of survival. In the way our stress response floods us with adrenaline for a threat that most of us face, mostly in the form of emails and traffic, an ancient emergency system responding to modern inconveniences with the full force of prehistoric urgency. We are animals who evolved for a different world, finding our way in this one. Just as the whale's ancestors were land animals, finding their way in the sea, the tools are not always a perfect match for the current situation. But they are what we have, and they are enough. The whale does not apologise for its vestigial bones. It does not wish it were more fully aquatic, more fully perfect for the water. It simply is what it is. The sum of everything it has been. The creature that resulted from 50 million years of patient, incremental becoming. And it is magnificent. You are the sum of everything you have been too. Every version of yourself that learned something hard. Every year that changed you in ways you did not ask for. Every loss that made you quieter, and every joy that made you larger. Every morning you got up when it was difficult, and every night you finally allowed yourself to rest. All of that is inside you, invisible from the outside perhaps, but present, real, part of the structure that holds you up. You are carrying it all tonight, gently, the way the whale carries its silent hidden bones, and it is enough. You are enough. Let that be soft. Let it be simple. Let it be the last complicated thought before the simpler ones take over. You are enough. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 40. The colour of deep water at night. Have you ever seen the ocean at night? Not in a storm. Not dramatically. Just the ocean. At night, when the sky is dark and the water is dark, and the two of them together make a darkness that is unlike any other darkness on Earth. At the surface, on a calm night, the ocean reflects whatever light is above it. If there is a moon, the water holds its edge, a long, trembling path of silver stretching from the horizon to your feet. If there are stars, the water holds those too, hundreds of wavering points of light, so that standing at the shore, you feel surrounded by stars both above and below. And further out, where the reflections fade, the water becomes simply dark, quietly, immensely dark, moving in long, slow swells that you can feel more than see, the ocean's breathing, in the dark. Somewhere out there, beneath that surface, the whales are moving. They are always moving. Even now, even as you rest, the blue whales are crossing the Pacific. The humpbacks are singing. The sperm whales are diving to depths we can barely imagine. The grandmother orca is leading her family through cold northern water. The grey whale calves are growing strong in their warm lagoon. The ocean does not stop at night. It continues, vast and dark and full of living, entirely indifferent to whether the sun is up or down. The night makes no difference to the deep water. The midnight zone is midnight always. The creatures there have never seen sunlight and never will, and still they live, and still they move. And still the water turns and carries and transforms everything it touches. The night is just the world doing its night work. The same world that does its day work. The same continuous, patient, ancient process. And you, in your own darkness tonight, are part of that same continuous process. Your sleep is not an interruption of living. It is a part of living, one of the most essential parts. The world keeps going in the dark. So do you. Even when you are not aware of it. Even when your mind has gone quiet and your body is still. Something in you continues. The heart beats. The breath moves. The brain processes and repairs and dreams. You are alive in the dark. Quietly, necessarily, completely alive. Let the ocean be dark around you tonight. Let it be immense and patient and full of creatures going about their ancient business. And let yourself be one small, warm, breathing thing in the middle of all that immensity, safe, still, alive. For a moment, just breathe. Chapter 41. The Gift of Small Things. In the very last part of our story, I want to talk about krill. I know, it seems like a strange place to end up. After all the grandeur of the blue whale, all the depth of the sperm whale's dive, all the beauty of the humpback's song. And here we are, talking about krill. But krill are wonderful. Krill are tiny, shrimp-like creatures. Most species are less than 2 inches long. They are almost translucent, a faint pinkish orange, so that in large groups they turn the water that colour, vast pink clouds drifting near the surface of cold oceans. They are, in terms of biomass, the total weight of all living things of a species combined, among the most abundant animals on Earth. The total weight of all Antarctic krill is estimated to be somewhere around 500 million tons. That is more than the total weight of all the humans on Earth. 500 million tons of 2-inch-long translucent shrimp. And they are the foundation of almost everything. The blue whale eats them, the humpback eats them, the fin whale, the minke whale, the right whale. They all eat krill. Penguins eat krill, seals eat krill, many seabirds eat krill, even some fish eat krill. Take the krill away, and almost everything in the Southern Ocean collapses. The largest animal that has ever lived depends entirely on one of the smallest. The song of the humpback, the dive of the sperm whale, the migration of the grey whale, all of it rests, ultimately, on a 2-inch-long translucent creature drifting in cold water. There is a lesson in this, and I want to offer it gently. The small things hold everything up, the things we barely notice, the ordinary kindnesses, the quiet mornings, the simple meals, the unremarkable days that feel like nothing while they are happening, but turn out, looking back, to be the foundation of everything that matters. The krill do not know they are essential. They just drift in their hundreds of millions of tons in the cold water, living their small, brief lives. And the blue whale lives because of them. You are surrounded by krill. Not literally, tonight, hopefully, but by the small, essential things that hold your life up. The breath you took a moment ago, the warmth of wherever you are lying, the fact that your heart is beating right now without being asked, without being thanked, without any awareness on your part of the extraordinary thing it is doing. The small things are doing their work right now. They always are. Let them. Let the heart beat without your supervision. Let the lungs breathe without your management. Let the body do all its small, essential, unnoticed work in the dark. You can rest. Everything is already being taken care of. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 42. The Long View. We have been travelling through time tonight. 50 million years back to the beginning of the whale's journey in water. 4 billion years back to the first oceans. Back through the Tethys Sea and the ancient forests and the warm, shallow estuaries, where something small and uncertain was becoming something enormous and certain. And now let us take one last, very long view before we let the story go. Stand somewhere high in your imagination, somewhere you can see a long way. Perhaps a cliff above the ocean, perhaps somewhere in the mountains where the air is very clear and the view is very wide. Look out. In front of you is the world, the real world as it is right now. The oceans and the continents, the forests and the deserts, the cities with their small bright lights, and the wilderness with no lights at all. The rivers running their old routes to the sea, the weather moving across everything, unconcerned as it always has, and in the ocean, which you can see from here, dark and vast and patient, the whales are moving. They have always been moving. In some form, in some ancestor or descendant, something has always been moving in that water. For 50 million years, something has been swimming where the whale swims now. The shapes have changed. The sizes have changed. The sounds have changed. But the movement has continued, unbroken, from the first uncertain wading in the warm Tethys to the blue whale crossing the Pacific tonight. 50 million years of swimming. You are watching 50 million years of swimmings from your high, clear place. And somewhere in that ocean, a whale surfaces. It rises slowly from the blue dark. Its great back breaks the surface, and it exhales. A long, warm, powerful breath. A cloud of mist rising into the air above the dark water, catching the last light, disappearing into the sky. And then it goes back down, and the ocean closes over it, and the surface is still again, as if nothing happened, as if nothing was ever there, but something was there, something enormous and ancient and alive and full of song, something that carries 50 million years of becoming in every slow sweep of its tail. It was there, and it will be there again, surfacing somewhere else, miles away, in an hour or a day. It is always out there. Let that be the last clear image you hold tonight. The whale surfacing in the dark ocean, that warm breath rising into the cold air, that brief, beautiful appearance at the boundary between the deep world and the surface world, and then the descent, back into the dark, back into the deep, back into the place where it is most itself. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 43. Fading into sleep. Now the story is becoming something softer. I am not going to tell you more facts. I am not going to introduce new ideas. We have travelled far enough. We have learned enough for one long, quiet night. From here, I am just going to stay with you for a little while. In the quiet. In the dark. Speaking softly, the way someone speaks in a room where someone else is almost asleep. Not to keep you awake. Just to be present. Just to fill the silence with something gentle, so the silence does not feel too large. The whales are in the ocean. They have always been in the ocean, long before tonight, and long after they will be there. Moving through the deep blue, calling across hundreds of miles. Diving into the dark and rising back into the light, feeding their calves in warm lagoons, following invisible paths across thousands of miles of open sea. The ocean holds all of it. Every dive, every song, every birth, every whale fall, every moment of the 50 million year story. The ocean holds it the way the night holds everything. Completely, without judgment, without preference. It holds the whale and the krill, and the strange glowil, and the krill and the strange glowing creatures of the midnight zone, and the ancient bacteria living in the deepest trenches. It holds all of it at once, in its vast, dark, patient arms, and the night holds you the same way tonight, completely, without judgment, without asking anything of you. You do not have to be interesting tonight. You do not have to be useful or productive, or even fully awake. The night holds you regardless. The dark is not selective. The quiet does not require your performance. Just be here. Just breathe. The room around you is soft. Whatever sounds are present. The small sounds of a house at rest. The distant sound of the world outside. Let them be part of the quiet rather than interruptions of it. Everything is background now. Everything is the sound of the ocean heard from a distance. A low, continuous, unhurried sound. In and out, like waves, like breathing, like a whale's exhale rising and dispersing into the air. Let your thoughts be like that. Rising, dispersing, gone. Another thought comes, rising, dispersing, gone. You do not have to follow them. You do not have to hold on to any of them. Let them come and go, the way waves come and go. Each one complete in itself, each one releasing into nothing. The space between thoughts is very quiet. Let yourself rest in that space for a while. For a moment, just breathe. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Chapter 44, The Last Shore. We are almost at the end now. The shore I imagine for the end of this story is very quiet. The sun has fully set. The sky is the deep blue-black of late night, scattered with stars. The ocean is very still, only small, slow waves arriving on the sand, each one softer than the last. There is no wind, there is no one else here, just the shore and the ocean and the stars above and the dark water stretching out to the horizon. And somewhere out there, in the deep, a whale is resting, floating at the surface, barely moving, half asleep, its breathing slow and measured, its great body rising and falling with the gentle swell. It is not thinking about tomorrow. It is not thinking about the journey it will make next month, or the feeding grounds it will reach in another season. It is simply floating, simply resting, simply here in the dark water, breathing, and the ocean holds it, as the ocean always has, as the ocean always will. This is where we leave the whale tonight, not in the middle of a dive, not in the full drama of a song, not in the urgency of migration. We leave it here, at rest, at the surface, in the quiet dark, floating in the arms of the water that has been its home for 50 million years. It is at peace. And you can be at peace too. Whatever the day held, it is over now. Whatever tomorrow holds, it is not here yet. There is only this breath, this warmth, this quiet, the whale in the dark water, and you, here, wherever here is. Both of you resting, both of you held. For a moment, just breathe. The last words, I want to thank you for coming on this journey. You did not have to stay. You could have put this story down at any point and found something else. But you stayed, or you drifted in and out, which is even better. You let this story be part of your night. You travelled 50 million years tonight. You watched a creature walk on land and slowly, patiently, impossibly become the largest animal that has ever lived. You listened to songs that cross oceans. You went into the midnight zone where no light reaches and the pressure is immense. You met calves in warm lagoons and elders in cauldrons of cold water, and a lonely whale calling in its own particular frequency across a sea that may or may not have been listening. You thought about deep time and small things, and the weight of what we carry and the peace of letting it down. And now, at the very end, there is almost nothing left to say. Except this: you are safe. The night is long and it is kind. The ocean is out there. Somewhere, dark and vast and full of ancient life, doing what it has always done, turning its great currents, carrying its voices, holding its creatures in the deep. And you are here, warm, still, breathing. There is nothing you need to do. There is nowhere you need to be. There is no version of this night that requires anything more from you than this. Just being here, just breathing, just letting the darkness be soft and the quiet be enough. The whale is resting in the dark water. You are resting in your own warm dark. The same stars are above both of you. The same ancient world holds you. Both. Close your eyes, if they are not already closed. Let the breath come and go without your help. Let the thoughts drift the way the tide drifts, in and out, each wave a little softer than the last. And let sleep come. It has been waiting for you, patiently, the way the ocean waits for the whale to surface. Without urgency, without demand, just here, ready when you are. The story is complete now, all 5 parts, all the long way from the warm Tethys shore to this quiet ending. From the first uncertain step into the water to the whale resting at the surface under the stars. The story is complete. And so, for tonight, are you. Sleep well. The world will still be here in the morning. The ocean will still be vast. The whales will still be singing. And you will wake When you wake, having rested inside something 50 million years in the making. That is not nothing, that is everything. Good night. The world turns slowly, and so do we, and so do we.